Well, good evening everybody. Thank you for coming once again. Welcome to Berry Radio Society. The only real announcement I've got, it's one that we put together. Why FT8 is worth a second look. And this has kind of come out of various discussions. If you look on YouTube, if you look on sort of anywhere around the different amateur radio community, there's all sorts of FT8 tends to get a bad rap. Also, if you talk to a lot of the old timers, they're like, oh, it's not real radio, it's not, you know, FT8 is destroying the bands. You know, you've probably seen that cartoon. There are no sunspots, and FT8 has ruined amateur radio, ruined it. Well, I don't think that's exactly the case. I think if you step back and if you look at what FT8 has done and where it's come from, and the way that the kind of the environment is changing for amateur radio, especially on HF, you'll begin to see that this is part of the evolution of things. And just to write it off, it's probably not the most sensible thing to do. And I'll give you some really good reasons why you probably don't want to write it off. And why, even if you're one of those people that think, can't be bothered, it's worth a second look. It really is. So let me see if I can convince you anyway. You can all throw things at me later if you don't.
Data?
Data, yes.
Does it take up more than 5 kilohertz either side?
No, it takes up a lot less.
Does it?
Yes. Anyway, just to head that one off at the pass, this is not going to be an explanation of what FT8 is, although I'm going to touch on quite a lot of the bits of what FT8 is and how it works. We've got a separate presentation which we already did, all about FT8, what it is and how it works. I don't think we've got that one on the video on YouTube, but if everybody knows nothing about it and wants to know about it, we could always do that one again. If you'd like me to do that one again, please let me know and I'll put it in the calendar. So anyway, so some good reasons why FT8 is worth a second look. First one probably comes down to what it's useful for. So FT8 will let you make contacts under weak signal, high noise conditions. And in the world in which we live, that is the reality for more and more of us as time goes on. We have high urban noise levels. I know there's we've had a debate about that for the last few weeks. We've been building noise filters. We've been trying to reduce our noise level with varying levels of success. You know, there's the noise cancelling stuff that I did a presentation about the other week, which incidentally is working now in my shack, and it is working well. So it definitely works. Have a go if you have a problem with it. Most of us, increasing numbers of it, we have small postage stamp gardens. You can't get 132 feet of wire out. You know, when I started in HF radio, that was what you wanted. You're like, oh, I wonder if I can get 132 feet of wire down my dad's garden. Well, the answer is no. In most of the places we live, you cannot. Gardens aren't big enough. They're not long enough. They're overlooked at the side. Your neighbours would go ape. You just can't put something like that up. Most of us will not be able to put a big lattice tower in our back garden with a 3-element beam on the top. We just won't.
One way of doing it, if you've got a big garden then, is to take the wire and go right the way around the garden like that, in a G shape.
Yeah.
That's one way, but that doesn't guarantee you something like the size that you were saying. But it could still guarantee you extra space because you use each corner of the garden. So that's one idea, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, for example, my daughter's just bought a house down a bit further down Hollins Lane. It doesn't even have a back garden. It has a backyard. You know, about all you could literally do there is stick a mobile whip on the fence post, and even then the neighbours would be looking at it going, what's that you've put next to my window? Unfriendly neighbours and councils, getting planning permission for stuff, people complaining. It's just the realm in which we live. It gets harder and harder, which means we have substandard antennas. It's compromise. You're not going to get as good, you know, contacts with a substandard aerial. And of course, low power. Don't forget we have the EMC restrictions. You know, you can't run large amounts of power in something that's going to be like next to somebody's armpit. You've got to have clearance distances. So everything seems to be stacked against us. And for somebody trying to actually make progress in the hobby, this can be a real pain because it's discouraging. You know, you think, I'm not going to be able to work anything on HF. It's not even worth me bothering. I might as well just sit on my local repeater on 2 meters and just complain about my lot. But with FT8, you can still make contacts. You can still enjoy the hobby in circumstances where other modes of operation might fail. It's worth a look for those who are living in challenging places. It really is. So if you're in that kind of situation where it's hard to get on the HF bands, FT8 might just help you. You can still make contacts. I got DXCC using FT8, 100 countries. It's actually quite easy to do. I mean, I think you did it in about, how long did it take you? About 2 weeks. Took me 2 years, but that's just the difference between me and him. But yes, you can do it. You can work DX, you can work South America on FT8. You can do these things.
Can FT8 be used on FM, AM and sideband, or is it carrier wave?
It's a digital mode, it's audio keying, so no, you wouldn't use it on FM.
Would you use it on sideband or carrier wave?
But like I said, we haven't really got time tonight to get into how it works. I'll go through with you how it works if you want.
Yeah.
But if we do that, we're going to deliver a different talk tonight. So that's one thing. Another thing is, contrary to popular opinion, there aren't that many barriers to getting started on FT8. Some people might say, well, you know, weak signal conditions, bad aerials, high noise level. I could work the world on CW. You don't need FT8. That's for these newfangled people. You know, learn CW. But how long does it take you to learn CW? There's a big learning curve there. Not only have you got to learn CW, then you've got to become proficient in CW enough to actually be able to use it. And when these weird call signs come in, you need to be able to read them effectively. That's going to take you, let me say, at least 6 months, probably more like a year. And that's if you're absolutely dedicated to doing it. Whereas with FT8, you can work the world under weak signal conditions from day one. No skills required. Well, let me qualify that. Some skills required, but nothing like that that's going to be a barrier that's going to stop you getting started. You can use it with a foundation license because it's a weak signal mode. You don't need large amounts of power. So a foundation licensee, absolutely. Stick yourself a bit of wire in your backyard, whatever you've got, get started on FT8. You can work all around the world on that and make all sorts of interesting contacts. It's easy to get going. It's quick and easy to see results and become engaged, because there's nothing worse when you're trying to start on something, especially in our hobby, when everything's stacked against you. You can't make progress, you can't get any results. It quickly becomes frustrating and you get brassed off with it and you think, why am I bothering with this? When you start with that, you can get results that are actually quite good. You can go, whoa, somebody in South America just came back to me. Russia, China, I've just made a contact halfway around the world with this little tin pot setup that I've got. This is great, I want to learn more. So it's an encouraging thing to get started in. It can get you on the air and it can become a gateway to other things. Not to be sniffed at, I would say. Another thing, you will learn practical skills. You get started actually using your station on HF bands. You're going to learn things like, how do I run a feeder to the end of the garden? You're going to come across the thing of like, oh dear, Alan can't come round and solder me a PL2059 on my coax for 2 weeks because he's too busy. I'll have to learn how to do it myself and actually do it. You'll learn about matching the aerial, you'll learn about SWR, you'll learn about antenna tuners and earthing and, you know, line isolators and all manner of things. And one of the things that we all bemoan is that there's no practical content in the license exam anymore. It's just purely a tick box thing on the internet. You pass that, you can go on. It's like just giving somebody a theory test and letting them on the road without any driving experience. You could probably do it, but you're going to feel a bit like, oh, I need to know what I'm doing here. Well, FT8, getting started on this, the process of going through it, is going to give you all them practical skills setting up your station that you're not going to get anywhere else. And one good thing about a radio club is you've got people who will handhold you and help you through that all the way and get you sorted, as we've several of us found. So that's another good thing. You'll learn about power supplies, you'll learn about logging. You'll soon learn about propagation, because you'll go on and you'll go, man, the band's red hot today, I can see everybody coming in. You'll go on another day and it'll be rubbish. Why is that? Difference in propagation. You'll soon learn the difference between day and night, which bands come in the day, which bands work during the night. You're going to learn all this stuff. And remember, we're talking here about a new person who's just started, a foundation licensee, minimal license conditions. This is a way for those people to learn all these things, which we say you can't learn anymore. Yes, you can. Get started in FT8. Here's another good reason. It's computer based, for those of you who don't know. FT8, you're using a computer connected to your rig to talk to somebody else's rig connected to their computer at the other end. It's not like Packet, no. It's different to Packet. It's sort of vaguely like Packet. You can use a Raspberry Pi to do FT8. As we've proved, we're going to be demonstrating that live at NASA, because Lawrence is absolutely convinced it's going to work. Or you can use a laptop. You can use an Apple Mac, which Anthony does successfully. You can use a Windows machine, which I do successfully. You can use, it doesn't have to be the latest, greatest computer. It can be one you've got kicking about. It'll still work. The requirements are pretty slim. But the thing is, young people are very computer literate. These days, the younger generation, the people that we want to try and encourage and say, hey, look, we've got this great hobby, wouldn't it be great for you to be interested in it? And they're going to be like, talking to people on a microphone, I can do that using WhatsApp and stuff. But as soon as you say, you know what, you can connect your computer up to your radio, it's like, whoa, I play with a computer. They teach me it at school with flashlights and make little things trundle about desks. But you know what? I can connect this up to my radio and talk to somebody in Spain. I'm interested. Where do I sign up? It's great for introducing people to the hobby.
It's still nothing new to the concept, Alan. Because people were doing it with BBC computers at the times of the early 80s.
Only in Ritty.
People were doing similar stuff to that. When you think about it, though, there's nothing new in subtracting data and ham radio into the car, can there? There's nothing new in it.
Yeah, when I first started
doing it, but the principle is basically the same when you think about it, because we're doing it sending data over a radio set.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, there's nothing new in what's being done. And I think there might be news like FT8, I'm not sure. But if you ask me, it follows an awful lot of the original ideas that people were practicing in the 70s and 80s. So what I'm trying to say is it is digital, it's good, but it's nothing new, though, it's not.
Well, it is new, because back in the 70s and 80s, the only digital mode that it had was RTTY. RTTY.
Yeah.
On the HF bands, there was nothing else. And that was just a pretty niche thing. And the other thing about RTTY is it's wide bandwidth as well. So if you can't get through on SSB, you won't get through on RTTY. Whereas the difference with FT8 is you can literally not be able to hear the signal for the noise, and yet the software will still decode it and you can still have a contact. It's that good. It's completely different.
It's worth having a real go at.
It's worth having a real go at. So it's a great way to attract people into the hobby, and it's a great way for some of us older and crustier people to gain experience of this new world of microcomputers and all the things that go along with them. Yeah, it's great. And I would say, do you know enough to help a newcomer get started on FT8? You can learn it. If you don't, you could become an ambassador of the hobby, and be able to meet young people where they are in this new digital age and say, hey, I can help you, I can get you started with that, and then see where they go. Because we have to move with the times. We want to encourage people to take up this hobby and to benefit from it. Well, the hobby is changing, whether we like it or not, and we want to be ambassadors for it. We need to embrace that. I think so anyway. And I'm talking as a person over 60 years of age. So I'm not one of these like, I only use a Morse key. Come on, let's move with the times here, and let's be what we can be to encourage a new generation to take this up and run with it. And who knows what they'll be doing? Might be talking to people in a base on the moon by the time I croak it, for all we know. Anyway, so that's a really good point, I think. You'll learn more about software if you take up FT8. You'll not only learn about computers, you'll learn about the software, trust me. First thing you'll learn is that you need some sort of time sync on your computer to make sure that the time is correct Otherwise, you'll be wondering why you can't talk to people. So you're going to have to figure out how to put that in. Yeah, there's loads of guides on the internet, but it's something I bet you've never done before. And you're going to learn how to do that and appreciate it and understand why it's important. You're going to want to control your rig, so you're going to get into the wonderful world of CAT. You know, how to connect up the CAT interface on your rig, how to actually control that, what you can do, what you can't do. And that's going to open up a whole new world to you of other things that you might be able to do with that you didn't really think was worth doing before. You'll definitely learn about serial ports and USB, as we found the other week, pigging about with Raspberry Pi, trying to figure out which port on the Raspberry Pi actually connected to the 991 and made it work. Much trial and error and hilarity was involved in that, but we got to the bottom of it. So again, it's a learning curve. It's stuff you're going to learn about, and you know, extra stuff that you never knew. You're going to learn extra stuff like how to connect up your FT8 software to your logger, for example, so that it automatically logs your contacts when you make them. Grid tracker, where you can see it on a map and do all sorts of alerts and pull information from QRZ and Logbook of the World and all these things that you can do that, you know, you're going to learn about as you get into it. Do you need to know them all to get started? No, you don't. But I bet once you've got started and you've got it working, you'll go, I'm going to try it in that on. I'm going to try it in that on. And you're going to learn about loads of stuff that you never thought about. You'll find yourself learning more as you go, I guarantee it.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
I've just been looking, is the most common software known as Digimode? Does that sound right?
That's a general umbrella term.
Oh,
for
it is?
There's various softwares that you can get. Right. The classic is WSJT-X.
That's what I'm looking at, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, right.
That does FT8 amongst other things.
Okay.
But there's various forks of that. There's about 5 or 6 different sort of variants of that, and a couple of other ones that don't have the same name, I think, which immediately escape me the names of them. But
JTDX.
yeah, there's JTDX. There's these are people who've like taken the original one and thought, I think it ought to have these features in as well, and they've extended it. Personally, I just use the bog standard one. Your mileage may vary. If you start with the bog standard one, you can always change and use one of these other ones after a while if you prefer what they do. It's quite easy to swap between the software. Yeah, construction and practical experience. Don't forget you've got to connect your computer to your radio. At the minimum, this is going to involve you in at least purchasing a cable from AliExpress. Preferably, I hope, building one, making up a cable. But your rig might not have a USB port on the back that you can readily use instantly for this. Some do, some don't. You might need to build yourself an interface box to connect the audio output to the audio input, and, you know, adjust the levels and get rid of the hum and, you know, a bit of transformer isolation or something. Again, there's loads of information on the internet. It's not hard to build, but it's something that will actually get you into some practical experience. You're soon going to learn about RFI suppression when you first go on to transmit and your computer crashes and you wonder why. Then you're going to be finding, oh, I need to put some ferrite beads on my USB lead here. Or you find out, as Paul did, that the computer's generating large amounts of RF hash and you're picking it up in your receiver. And then you've got to think, right, how do I cure this? So there's lots of different areas that are going to come into this that you're going to learn about. And all because you decided to have a go with this. Just plug a Morse key or a mic into your rig. You're not going to learn any of this stuff. The Raspberry Pi, beautiful little thing. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. If you've never experienced one, you've never played with it, you know, you want to get hold of one and learn. What better way to learn about the Raspberry Pi than do something useful with it and get it going on FT8 and connect it up to your radio. So you'll learn about how to flash the image onto the SD card, put the software on, you know, how to put updates on the Pi, how to correctly shut the damn thing down rather than just pulling the power out of it, and various other things, you know, that are important to know.
Alan, can I program it?
Can you program it?
Is it in C++ or like
You can.
DOS or what?
The Pi, it's basically just a microcomputer. Yeah, you can put C on it. It runs Linux, so you can.
Will it run C++ programs as well as DOS?
Probably.
Will it?
Yeah. Python, Perl, scripting.
So can I program it with a manual? Can I write the manual, but something I can do myself? No.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I do it then?
It's a learning tool. Yeah, you can learn all
Like
sorts of
C++.
stuff on it. Yeah. So here's another thing. FT8 will teach you how to operate. There's this big myth about FT8, and let me kill that one right now. Is that all you have to do? It's like mechanized warfare. You just literally put your computer, connect it to your rig, click on one button, and just sit back and you do nothing. And the software just works all the DX for you, and it all just happens. That is rubbish. Unless you get one particular variant of the software which will do automated answers and calls, you actually have to intelligently operate the thing to work the people you want to work. So you'll learn things like, you'll learn about the band plan. On the different HF bands, you'll learn where the FT8 spot frequencies are. And in the process of that, you'll learn what else is on the band. So it's going to give you some familiarity. One thing you're going to quickly learn is to set your transmit and receive levels properly. Because if your transmit level is wrong and you're pushing too much audio into your rig, your signal's going to be like yay wide and you're going to brass everybody off. You really don't need much power. And there's meters on the software to let you set that, but a lot of people, they don't realise that at first. So you're going to learn that. It's not just a matter of turning it on and not having to adjust anything. You've got to set it up properly. So you're going to learn all that. Another thing, you learn how to use the waterfall properly. If you've never seen FT8, that makes no sense to you whatsoever. But basically, you get a spectrum display at the top. The whole point about FT8 is it's on one spot frequency. So it's not a range of frequencies, but on that one spot frequency, you've got people having QSOs using different frequencies of audio within the transceiver's bandwidth. You can have 30, 40, 50 QSOs going on one spot frequency on the HF bands. About 3 kilohertz wide, you can have 50 conversations in that. That all shows up on like a waterfall display. But then you've got to find a clear spot on the waterfall that people aren't using. And the other thing people don't realise is they just click on it and let it go, and they don't understand that you can put your receive and transmit in 2 different places. So if you're intelligent, you think about the passband of the receiver, you look at where all the activity is, and you go, it's quieter down there. I'll listen to this guy up here in all the mush, but I'll transmit down there where it's a lot clearer and he can hear me. And you learn how to move those around. So it's not just a simple matter of like, it takes no intelligence to operate. It does. There's a whole sort of realm of FT8 operation, skillful operation, being a good operator that you can learn and you can progress in, and you can pick up all these tips. You can either call CQ or you can watch and pounce. It's just the same as any other kind of operation. It'll teach you what makes up a QSO. You know, a response from the other end, a report given, a report acknowledged and exchanged. Thank you, 7373. There you go, that's a loggable contact. So you're picking up all this procedure and you're learning how to operate. Again, propagation, time of day, we saw that. And then for those of you who really get into it, there's this fox and hound mode where they go off onto a different frequency and spread all the stations out. So when it's some real DX type person, it's kind of the equivalent on CW of them operating split, but it's on steroids. And the software has a special mode you can jump into that helps you to do that. So the software won't make contacts for you. It will. Let's qualify that. Is it? Which one is it that does the automated, Anthony?
You can do WSJTZ, or you can also use FT8 Helper.
Yeah.
Which will sit on top of
Yeah.
WSJTX.
So there's a variant of WSJTX you can get that you can actually turn on automated, and it will call CQ and it will work the people that answer you. It will log the contact, call CQ again, work the next person, blah blah blah. So yes, you can set it going and go off to the toilet or have a cup of tea or eat your dinner. But I guarantee you, you're going to work loads of Italians, loads of French, loads of Spanish, you know, a few Russians. You're not going to work DX like that, and it's pretty quickly going to get boring. If you want to use it properly, you need to get some skill, and you'll get that if you start using it. What else is good about it? few final thoughts. Well, even if you don't use FT8 and you hate FT8, I would advise you to learn where the FT8 spot frequencies are on your favourite HF bands. Because if you're interested, for example, to know whether 10 metres is open today, are you going to tune up now the band, listening if anybody's there? Far easier just to key in that spot frequency. If you can hear FT8 warbling away, you know that people are using the band and it's open to somewhere. So you can use it as a propagation aid, even if you don't install the software and never use it actually yourself. It's a great indicator of what's taking place. DX enthusiasts, it's brilliant. Because when you're chasing that one country that you can't get, I bet you can work it on FT8 even if you're struggling to get it on other places. Because as I said, it is that good. I've literally worked stuff on 10 meters where I just couldn't hear the audio. All I could hear in the speaker was just static and hash, and yet the software was pulling it out of the noise, and I was having QSOs, which is mind-boggling if you think about it. It's that good. You can use PSK Reporter, which is a website. We covered that before in the FT8 talk, but if you tick a box in your software, it will upload, like when you make a contact or when you receive somebody in your decode pane, it'll keep sending that to PSK Reporter. And you can go onto PSK Reporter on the internet, bring up a map of the world, and you can see who can hear who and who can talk to who. And if you put in your call sign, you can see all the people that heard you. Even if they didn't answer you, their software was able to hear you. So you know it's like reverse beacon network. You can see, are my signals getting out? You can tell for sure using that. It integrates directly with ham clock, which is absolutely fantastic. So, you know, you can use ham clock, but it's all because PSK Reporter exists. And PSK Reporter exists because people use FT8. That's the data that's driving it. So yes, it is useful. And if you watch the decode, it gives you a great insight into who's on the bands, what destinations are open. You can see different countries coming up. Because one of the good things is, as it comes up, it decodes it. It'll look up the country for you, and it'll tell you at the side where it is that they're coming from. It'll tell you special event stations and things like that. It's pretty good at giving you additional information. And certainly Grid Tracker and JT Alert, which I use, you can set that up to automatically look things up on places like QRZ.com. So when some guy comes up, it'll immediately pop up a box and it'll say, oh, this person lives in, you know, St. Lucia or wherever it is. Here's his name, his little picture of his aerial, you know. You can get all this extra value added stuff that comes out of it. Any other points? Well, it's a whole new skill set to learn and enjoy. And I would say amateur radio is all about learning new stuff. It's all about experimenting, it's all about trying new things, pushing boundaries, playing around with new techniques. Amateurs have always done that. We started off with AM. People invented SSB. Amateurs invented SSB. Then we went from that to like repeaters and in duplex operation. You know, amateurs are at the forefront of that. Radio teletype, amateurs did it. Slow scan TV, amateurs did it. DMR, that's the latest explosion. That was people repurposing commercial DMR and going, you know what, that has a future, we could use that. And they got on it and they built these networks, and we have DMR today because people thought that's interesting, nobody's doing it, I'm going to have a go at it. FT8 has come from exactly the same place as that. The original guy who wrote the software was some professor in, I forgot which university it is, in the States, but he's like a big guru in radio astronomy. Taylor, yeah, Taylor his name is. But he's like working with software that's built to pull signals out of almost really weak signals out of impossible levels of noise, because they use it to hear things like half a galaxy away and to analyze them. And he happens to be a radio amateur, and he thought, you know what, we could use that for HF communication under poor signal conditions. And he actually was the original author of WSJTX, which is now developed by a panel of people. So that's yet again amateurs innovating and creating something new on the back of it. So why would we not want to embrace that? Plus, as I said, digital modes of the future. We don't want to miss the train. You know, new people are coming up now who are very digitally savvy. They understand microcomputers, can run rings around us in terms of coding and doing things like that in the computer world. This is a way to engage with those people and say, you know what, you can do something really useful with all that knowledge, and you can play with amateur radio. And once they start with that, they might discover other things they're interested in. Or they might go, no, it's boring, and give up. I don't know. But the possibility is there. You know, we want to reach out. I think we should at least understand this stuff and be able to tell people you can do it. Even if you don't do it yourself, even if it's not personally for you, it's something I think that we should be ambassadors for as people who believe in this hobby and like it and have to pass it on. After all, I was once a wet behind the ears young person who did not know what he was talking about, and I learnt lots of stuff off old crusty people just like me who took the time and trouble to say, hey, you know what, you could do this, you might enjoy this, why don't you have a go at that? And that's why I'm here today talking to you about this. So that's why I think FT8 is worth a second look. Don't write it off just out of spec. And don't fall for these people who just come on there and go, oh, there's nothing on the HF bands anymore except FT8. FT8's ruined amateur radio, it's ruined it. No, I don't think it's ruined it. I think it's opened the door to a bright new future, personally. So anyway, that's all I've got to say on the subject. You can all throw bricks at me or ask questions or whatever you want to do. Hopefully it has been a thought-provoking one for you tonight.
Will it be on carrier if this sort of thing gets done, or will it be sideband?
I'll explain it to you, because you're asking me how it works, basically. So that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, just my experience with it.